This is the 20th of September 2020. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning. This is between my house and my neighbor's house. I'm looking north. You're looking at, that's my air conditioning unit right here. My mini split air conditioning unit. It's working right now. But I'm going to start my little tour here. This is where I live, and we'll stand here at the corner. My neighbor's house, my neighbor's yard. Where you see the white post out there, that white post with the Adirondack chair, that's my boundary line. I just got done a week of work repairing all the irrigation on this line of trees and filling it in. There was a big rock pile on the right side, and now it's on the left. I moved a lot of rock, one shovel at a time. This is what I look at every morning. This is my backyard every night. This is probably the quietest year I've ever spent here. The quietest by far. 15 years ago, when Tiger was winning a lot, and Phil and Freddie Couples and all these golfers that we all loved were playing, real showmen, well, golf was at its peak as far as popularity, and there was a lot of money laying around to play golf. A lot of baby boomers, they were all peaking with money, so they were all into golf and playing golf. And on a Saturday or a Sunday morning like today, there would have been 25 groups by now go through. There'd be people waiting at that tee box over there for people to get off the green. One thing about this golf course, it plays very, 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 very slow. And I contribute why it plays so slow is to the clientele, the spectrum of traffic of people who come here to play. Most are starting out beginning. They have no sense of speed of play. And television has ruined golf. Television, when a guy takes three minutes to line up a 1-foot putt. These guys do that on a daily basis over here. But anyway, I'm trying to let you know what's going on. Here's my house. This is my patio. It's kind of cluttered right now. I have solar on the house. Here's my other Adirondack chair. I'm tickled that this plant is starting to come back. This, in a couple of weeks, I hope to be all green and all red like these flowers. These just broke out. Yesterday morning, there was like 3 flowers, but we got sun yesterday and it was warm, and they're just breaking out all over. Same with this plant. And this plant here, this is a violet color, and the bees are all over it. That plant right now, I don't know if you can see, if I can get close enough, but there's almost a whole hive of bees concentrating on that plant right now, collecting pollen because it's in bloom. But there must be 150 bees or more all around that plant right now, after those blossoming bushes getting pollen. And I'm going to empty this right now and fill it up for the birds. We keep the birds watered. If I had a camera on this thing all day long, you'd see every kind of species of bird out here in Arizona. Now I'll fill it up later, but okay, here's my challenge. Here's my dread. See that pile? That's all rock. This is all rock. rock that won't go through a 1/2 inch. Okay, and this is all pebble. This is pea gravel. Now, one shovel at a time, I have to put this in a barrel or in a cart, one shovel at a time, and I'll stop here. But my ultimate goal is, there's a drain there underneath that plastic. See the drain? I'm gonna get all this. I spent yesterday afternoon more or less putting a grade and a slope on this homegrown gutter that I made. I put 4 layers of plastic, a couple layers of plastic to get the water, and I built a little berm. I built a berm here where the water is going to flow from that window in the corner of the house back toward the golf course, and from that window in the corner of the house on the other side of the berm, it's gonna flow to the street. What I'm going to do this morning, I got a lot done yesterday, but it was getting pretty hot. What I'm going to do now is rake it out again, do a fine tuning on the sloping and the gradient of all this dirt here. Make sure it's sloped, graded, and everything else correctly. And then, one wheelbarrow, one cart at a time, I'm going to haul that rock in here. Yesterday, here's what I did yesterday, and I hope to do it again, but it's slow work. Slow work, one shovel at a time. But if you see this black, well, it was all nude or uncovered back farther yesterday and there. So all that black stuff was new yesterday, and I put it down. That's what I have to do today. But here's another thing in bloom. And I don't see any bees around this, but they're all over that plant in the back. Yeah, so one shovel at a time. Probably going to take me 3 days, 3 or 4 days to get it all covered and get it the way I want it. But hopefully this will be the last time that I have to work on this yard and grade it. I've done it. This is the 3rd time in 5 years that I pulled the cover off and graded it and done it again. And I'm getting no help. I'm getting no engineering help from the city of Buckeye. I'm getting no help from the HOA. They all know what took place. This house is 3 inches low. They did it on purpose. They needed a place to store water, so they lowered my house 3 inches outside of the guidelines. Now, if you're professionals, you expect me to be a professional HOA member, I am. I haven't missed a payment or a fine or anything in 15 or 16 years. I paid up and I can't get in the HOA. I'm locked out because I'm combative. Why am I combative? Because I know this house was built wrong. And nobody wants to talk to me from the HOA about how my house got built wrong. And nobody at the city will talk to me about how my house got built wrong. So I've been doing this now for 5 years. And I'm getting pretty tired of it. But I'm making this video. I may put it on YouTube. Somebody try to understand what the hell is this guy doing. I've been here 5 years. I come here every winter for 5 years, and every year he's out there in the yard doing something, tearing up his yard, and the place looks like hell. What's he doing? Well, what he's doing, what I'm doing, is I'm trying to fix a flim-flam, or a skim, okay? They skimmed me. They took advantage of a California investor. They filled in that walking easement over there, filled it in completely, so it wasn't a drain, it wasn't a walking easement. What it was an entitlement, a privacy entitlement given to each owner on each side of the easement. And then you lowered my house 3 inches for a place to store water. And between here and that lighthouse out there, right about where the lighthouse is, they had a berm that was higher than my patio that ran the whole length of all 3 of my houses. So every time the water came off the roofs, it couldn't get out. It couldn't get on the golf course. It was trapped. I got video of this house being surrounded by water, sitting in a moat until I started opening up. I also got a video of me putting in a 4-inch drain line underneath that lighthouse. This is what I have to deal with. This is what I've been dealing with for 5 years and paying dues. And I have to pay dues and taxes on this house, and I can't get in. My key card was canceled 2 years ago. I watch these lawyer shows on HOA lawyer shows, and they say it takes an act of Congress to get rid of a board member on an HOA, because they have the resources of lawyers that can protect their jobs. I've been kicked out of the HOA now for 2 years on the strength of one word: combative. That's it. No details, no time, no date, no what was said, no nothing. It's just that you've been deemed combative. And this was written by the manager, and it didn't say the board has considered you. I'm considering you combative, and I'm kicking you out of the HOA. You're combative, you're disruptive. You disrupt meetings when you're constant bickering about track day in your house, in your lot. It's distracting. It's combative in our meetings. That's why we have to kick you out of the HOA. But I have dues to pay on this house and this house by the end of the month. $285 each. And I can't use any of the facilities. None. My key card was canceled 2 years ago on the strength of one word: combative. No details. Now, a lawyer on YouTube tells me that to try to get rid of a board member and kick them off the board or get them off the board takes an act of Congress. There's all kinds of legal hurdles before you can get rid of a board member. But here I'm a paying member. I've been a paying member for 15 years. I'm up to date on everything, never been late on anything. And I'm labeled combative, and I'm kicked out of the HOA on the strength of one word by one person. By one person's authority. One person's authority, and no reason, no time, no date, no specific example of me being combative. They can't come up with a specific example of me being combative because I never have. I'm inquisitive. I'm direct. I'm trying to get an answer. I'm trying to get an answer as to why this house was built 3 inches low outside of the master document. The master control document for this neighborhood said this house is supposed to be 3 inches higher, and it isn't, which affects my sewer pipes. I'm paying full sewer pipe bills or full sewer bills on my water, and I've got a deficient sewage system. It's out of code. It doesn't match the master document for the finished floor elevation of this house. That's why I have to do all this work. And it's been 5 years now. I've got so much money and time tied up in this little patch of land right here. I spent an extra $10,000 over what I paid for the house just working on this lot. This slope layer that slopes from the house to the middle, I did that. It didn't slope that way 5-6 years ago when they originally built it. Everything went to that house. There was no berm to keep the water away from that foundation. Every time we got a rainstorm, I had a moat around my house, a moat around my patio. My patio would go underwater because there was a berm between my house and the property line that was intentionally put there by the builder to keep the water up here, off the golf course. None of my friends, my relatives, my neighbors, my best friend don't want to hear this anymore. They've heard it so much from me, and there's nothing I can do about it. And all you people out in YouTube land, you think you're going to hire a lawyer and the lawyer's going to help you figure this out? There isn't one lawyer in Arizona that's going to feel sorry for a Californian that came in here and picked up these 3 lots at $150,000 each. All right? Okay? Every lawyer in Arizona considers that I took advantage of a situation here. Okay? I came in with my California big money, and I scooped up and beat everybody to the punch. The reason I have these properties, or had them, and at one time I had all 3. Let me go out on the golf course and show you what I bought when I saw this 15 years ago. First of all, every house that has a solar panel, I bought. I closed them all in 2004. So since 2005, I've been paying dues. January 2005, I started paying dues on 3 houses. I was working in San Francisco. I wasn't even living here at the time. I was coming here on the weekends. That house was empty, no renters. That house was empty, nobody in it. And just me there. And I scooped all these because, and the reason I had these 3 houses, and I got them before anybody else, is because every realtor was telling every customer out here from Buckeye that a $25,000 price tag per lot was ridiculous out here in Buckeye. They're not worth it. Plus we have mostly, I'd say 90-95% of the buyers out here are Midwest. So they're a little sticker shocked by the prices. I'm not from the Midwest. I came from San Francisco. When I realized I was a half an hour from Sky Harbor on I-10, and that I was a half a mile from I-10, the yellow brick road going to LA, and only 35 miles from Sky Harbor on I-10, interstate all the way almost to Sky Harbor, and that I could pick up these houses, these lots, with a small house on them for $150 each. I jumped on it. And why were they $150 each? Because of the mentality of the people in Phoenix at the time. Nobody wanted to drive more than 5 minutes to go anywhere. I came in here with a California mentality. We have long drives. If you have a 1.5-hour commute in California, you're doing good. You're doing good. You're in a good neighborhood if you've got an 1.5-hour commute to the airport in San Francisco. All right, you must be close in the East Valley. You only got a bridge or 2 to deal with to get to work. All right. When I saw what I could get for $150, look what I'm getting. I'm on the signature hole, the par 3. I'm on this lake. We're in the middle of a desert here. We're in Arizona. There isn't a body of water like this for a few miles. We have migratory birds. We have ducks that call this home. We got every kind of waterfowl, we have turtles, rabbits, you name it, quail. This is a nice place, except that I can't sell this house legally. I used to be an airplane mechanic. I used to receive and dispatch airplanes. There's not an airplane in this country that doesn't leave the gate during the day by at least the last flight of the day, that it leaves the gate without a deferral. Without something wrong with it. It's been deferred, it's been identified, it's been deferred, it's going to be fixed. And I used to release airplanes. That means that if a plane came in and there was a problem, if I couldn't fix it, I deferred it. I pulled the breaker on it, I put a tag on the breaker, it was put in the logbook, and on the release form that you give the captain, he has to read before he takes the plane. On that release, there's a notation about the system that's not working and the operational effects it has on the pilot. He has to understand he has a deficient system, so he has to operate the airplane differently. Now, I did that for years. And what my problem is selling this house is I can't get a realtor here that will let me put on a disclosure form that the town of Buckeye allowed the builder to build that house 3 inches low out of compliance. As far as I'm concerned, if a guy is giving me my price that I want for my house, I have a turnover to give him. That disclosure form is a form that has to tell him of anything that's deficient with the house. The sewer pipes are deficient. Do you get it? The sewer pipes are deficient. The effluent doesn't travel to the street at the speed it's supposed to because they shallowed out the pipes. When they lowered the finished floor elevation, they shallowed the pipe angle to the street. The effluent, this house is legal, okay? It has the right proper floor elevation. And that elevation was determined, they determined that elevation due to the angle to the sewer pipe on the street. When they got to this house, they said we need the same elevation. Well, they figured out that every one of these houses, these last 3 right here, this one, that one, and that one are supposed to be all the same elevation, and they're not. The builder got permission to lower that house 3 inches, which affects the sewer pipes. I am not going to sell this house to anybody that gives me my price. As far as I'm concerned, this is a turnover. I have to let him know that his sewer pipes legally are out of compliance. Whether they work fine or not, whether they've been working fine, and whether I've never had a problem, and I never have with them, but I've only had one person living here at a time, and she knows about the deficiency. She understands that we can't use the garbage disposal like a normal house. You're only asking for trouble. The more you load up the sewer on here, why? Because legally the house is out of compliance for its finished floor elevation. And I can't get that across to the realtors out in Buckeye. They don't want to put this on a, why do you want to tell a guy something like, why do you want to give him this big negative? Well, I would never let a pilot take an airplane that was deficient. It's called airworthy. Every pilot, they leave with an airworthiness document that's been signed by a mechanic, where a mechanic signs off and says, as far as I know, there's nothing wrong. As far as I know, there's nothing wrong with this that isn't on that form. If anything that's wrong with this airplane is on that document right there. Well, that's the way I feel about it. That disclosure form, I want to put onto it that the house was built intentionally out of compliance so that they could store water up here. And not one realtor in Buckeye wants to open up that can of worms. They don't want to lift up the rug on this and let all this information out, okay? They took a shot at me. I gave them $30,000 cash up front, and the first thing they did is, when they had my $30,000 cash, they said he's harpooned. He can't get out of this deal. We're going to lower his house, whether he likes it or not. And every time I try to talk to anybody in the HOA, whether it's the manager or members of the board, their first response is, if you don't like it, why don't you move? Hey, I'm all ready to move, but I can't get a realtor to list my house out here in Buckeye. They will not put on a disclosure form that the house was intentionally built wrong to store water illegally up here, an undisclosed, documented retention basin up here on a private lot. That's what they designed, that's what they built. This is like hillbilly civil engineering out here in Buckeye 15, 16 years ago. Nobody's watching, nobody will ever figure this out. And the trouble why they won't talk to me downtown, nobody's got a contingency plan for what if we get caught? What if somebody figures this out? What are we going to do? What are we going to tell them if somebody figures out what we did? Well, that's where we're at right now. I figured out what happened, and what happened is they threw me in jail. Every time I try to talk to anybody at the HOA, the first threat is, we'll have you thrown in jail. Chuck Milosevic has threatened me 2 or 3 times. Every time I try to talk to him about anything, he goes, I'll have you arrested. I can have you arrested at any time. All I got to do is make a phone call. That's what you're dealing with HOAs. But not only am I dealing with the HOA, I'm dealing with the town of Buckeye, and I'm dealing with all the realtors in Buckeye. Every realtor in Buckeye says, why do you want to bring this up? Why are you trying to give Buckeye a black eye? Okay? That's what I'm dealing with. Well, I'm going to start working now. I've done with my spiel. I went to tell you what I was doing in the back, but it ended up being a lecture on golf courses and HOAs. Okay, this is about 3:15 in the afternoon, the 20th of September, 2020. And I'm starting out the video here from the back patio of the big house. Looks like they're gonna close the course for overseeding for a couple days. Probably be a grand opening here in a couple weeks or a week. If the flag isn't there tomorrow, there's no flag and there's all kinds of equipment and the tees are gone. They're probably overseeding, and this 9 holes is going to be shut down. They'll shut down this 9 holes. That means the lake will be available. I wish I had time. Maybe I'll have time to get my remote control sailboat out and sail it on the lake. But you see what they're doing? They're overseeding. They've got a bunch of equipment. I doubt if this will be open tomorrow morning. It won't be open. They're grooming the course for a big opening. But we'll take a walk down the property line. There's my lighthouse. And I'll get back later to what I got done this morning, but we're just taking a walk along the property line. These plants look really good. I can't wait to have the time to trim them back. I'm looking so forward to about a month from now to cool days where I can work outside all day. But this is the lake. I'm on the high ground overlooking the lake. There's quite a drop from here to that surface of the lake. Okay. That's the green. And this plant is just doing unbelievable right here. I've got a lot of work ahead of me. as you can see, the piles of rock alongside the house that has to be spread out, distributed. I've worn down this pile a little bit this morning, but if you can see, there's ducks way off into the distance, enjoying the lake. I could be sailing my boat right now. It's perfect conditions, but and I'm out here testing the heat. I made really good progress this morning, but I went in for breakfast about 9, and the thermometer started going up. So I said I'll stay in until about 3 or 3:30. And if I can see where it's all shadow now, I'll be working in shadow. Where today, if I would have came back out here at 9, I would have been in the sun all day. Now, the sun, it's 3:30. I'm going to be working mostly in shadow over here. But this is what I've gotten done this morning. There's probably, what, 15 feet there. I've probably done, let's see, those are 3, 4, 5. There's about 12 to 15 feet that I got covered this morning. And what you're seeing, that's pea stone. That's that pea gravel. What I do is and this is reclaimed fabric. This fabric was down someplace else, might have been here, for about 3 or 4 years. I put it down years ago, and then when I pulled everything up again, this year for the 3rd time, I kept it all. It's all reclaimed. But what I have to do is I got to take my cart here and fill it up with rock from back there in the patio with the pea gravel. And I'm going to unroll. I've got 2 or 3 more rolls of reclaimed stuff that'll probably get me by this evening. I hope to be to this corner by this evening. By this evening, I hope to be to this corner, and I have to work this right here. I got to figure out how to transition and line this and get everything to where the water is going to be right there. Okay, we want the focal point of the water to be like right about here, and then have it sort of feed. That if it starts to get high at all, it's going to start feeding that drain over there. I'm gonna sculpt everything, but right now I'm hoping tonight when I quit tonight, I come out and this will be all covered with landscape fabric and rock when I get done. Then tomorrow, when I start tomorrow morning, I can work on this, give this special attention, and really start working on the exit over there. Between those 2 cement block columns is going to be the exit point for water. So I got to be real careful about sculpting that over there to make sure that the water is heading through those 2 columns. But tonight I've got it mostly figured out from right here though. From right here and back to the corner and back to the window, I got more or less figured out for tonight. So I just follow that pattern, what I did today. And but this is the start. This is, like I said, the 20th of September. So it's showtime.